Hello everyone, how are you all doing? I'm coming back at you from the crickets and thought to do a spontaneous off-the-cuff podcast. So I was just looking at Instagram, and it's so interesting because this social media culture is so addictive, right? It's so addictive, and it creates this really strange culture, this really strange experience where we are seemingly looking into other people's lives, however, not really, right? Because we're just getting a snapshot, and I don't even venture to visit the accounts on. I'm very specific. I'm very disciplined about what I watch on social media. So I don't even venture to look into the stuff that is highly filtered. And, I was so disturbed when I found out about the beauty filter and how it literally looks nothing like the person when they take off the filter. It's literally a completely different person. And I was thinking about this the other day of how, when I grew up, the biggest threat was kind of magazines, and that wasn't in front of your face all the time because really you only see it if you bought it at the store. So I wasn't one to buy magazines, maybe very rarely, on rare occasion when I was a teenager, but in general, not so much. But I remember being, a teenager and in my early 20s, and I remember when kind of MTV was producing good stuff. I have no idea what it's like these days. They would bring a model on and have her look at the cover of the photo that she did, and she'd be like, yeah, that's not what my ankle looks like, that's not what my tummy looks like, that's not, this part of my face doesn't look like that. And basically this was the beginning of Photoshop. But nowadays, it's at your fingertips. It's something that you look at sometimes hours every single day. If people do the screen time, literally hours where we're looking at things that are not real. So I'm not going to go into a podcast about that, but I will just put that as an aside of that's the extreme, right? And I would actually even call that a disease at this point, because it is so disturbing and it is so incredibly detrimental to anyone that does not have a strong enough sense of self, especially young people that don't recognize that's not real, and that's not something to measure ourselves by. That's not something to look like, because it's just actually not real. It doesn't exist. And somebody was even telling me that they have a name for plastic surgery these days, which mimics that filter. I can't even go into it because I have a daughter, and I just think no, I will protect her from that. Or she knows enough about herself and what's real and what's not real to, I think, be able to make that distinction. However, even just going back to what, people have talked about a lot, about the pitfalls of social media, is that we're getting a snapshot of somebody's life, never mind the filters. And we can compare, right? That is something that we can do. It lends itself to the possibility of comparing. They've got a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, children. They don't have children. They're traveling. They've got, a home. They've got whatever it is. There's something that, by the very kind of exposure of it, and because we are creatures that tend to, our brain functions 80% on what we know, and it compares experiences, it lends itself to comparison. And I had this moment where I was just looking at a photo, and it triggered something in me very, very, very quickly. Nothing that I took too seriously, because I trust my own process in my life. But there was a moment where it made me think, fleeting moment where it made me think, did I do this wrong? Did I do that? Did I do this? Did I experience that? Did I, whatever it was, there was a moment that was so quick. And I was so aware of it, but it was so quick that, but what came through was, oh, but maybe I should have done that. Or, maybe I should have done that with my life. And it was a comparison, right? And it was based on a picture of a moment that I have no idea what that moment even meant because I wasn't there, right? So it's complete projection. And that's one thing that's really useful to notice about how we respond to social media, because it's a projection. It's an absolute projection, because unless you are there in that moment, and even then we could philosophize about how we could still be projecting onto that moment, but especially behind a screen, a picture of someone that you're not physically present with, you just can't know. So it's completely our projection, which is fascinating, right? And for me, that moment wasn't conscious. It was a completely unconscious thing that I was able to observe, but it happened, right? So and immediately my response to that was, no, Corinne, you did your life. You did it your way, and that's perfect. And they did it their way, and that person will do it their way, and that person will do it their way. And how every experience, every individual on this planet is having their own experience. If I were to get existential on it for a minute, humor me, you could say that if we are all aspects of the universe, of consciousness, we are all having an experience as the universe through the perspective of who we are, this personality, this being. So we're all the same, we're all connected, but it's unique. The shape that we're in is unique. The personality that we're in is unique. The lens with which we are seeing existence occur is unique, right? And so there's a perfection to that there can never be comparison, because it can never be exactly the same. Even if you're in a relationship with someone where you are so connected and in tune with one another, and you can almost have this intuitive sense of each other, you're still going to be different, because you're in two different bodies, two different souls. Even if it's of the same, two different buckets of water from the same sea. And that's really beautiful, right? And the beautiful thing is to then, like, especially through art and music, it's like, I get to see existence and life through your eyes, through your experience. Like, that's how you interpret it in this moment. Okay, I would interpret it like this. Like, if you go to a museum and you look at art, and you stand there, one person sees one thing and the other person sees maybe something completely different. Maybe you see things that are similar, there's a crossover, but it's a beautiful thing. And I think we're losing that, the beauty of our uniqueness, the beauty of diversity, the beauty of this kind of paradox that we are all cut from the same silk, but we are a unique expression of that. And the reason why I say we're losing it is because I feel like we're becoming a culture. Zach Bush talked about this many, many months ago. We're becoming a culture of homogenization. And even now, with these kind of really extreme, now it's almost like two groups, right? So you're either homogenized in one group or you're homogenized in another group, but still it's very limited, right? Like, what happened to diversity? What happened to conversations and varying opinions and varying perspectives? It's now like one camp or the other. And I don't want to make this political. I don't want to make this about what's going on in the world, because I'm just, quite frankly, I don't want to talk about it. What I want to point out is the remembrance of the beauty of uniqueness, of a unique perspective. And I think, having this reverence for that makes for better relationships, friendships, communities. When we live in a very kind of hierarchical, homogenized culture, there isn't the celebration of diversity. Diversity becomes like a threat, but if we look at kind of more egalitarian systems, or, where it's not top down, but it's circular. Each individual contributes. Each individual has something unique to give, to offer to the whole. And I think that's what we need to move towards, because the hierarchical system doesn't work anymore. The homogenization doesn't work anymore. There's a very big distinction of we are made of the same cut of silk, to use that, or we all come from the ocean, if I just keep to that metaphor. And yet we need to be allowed to have our individual expression of that. Because otherwise we'd all just be robots, right? We'd all look the same, we'd all sound the same, we'd all do the same thing. And that gets terribly boring after a while. It becomes robotic, right? And I don't know, I think just this, it would be beautiful to see the celebration of our unique expression of existence. I don't know, I just had a moment where that felt so clear to me, and then that lets go of comparison, that lets go of competition, that lets go of, oh, I'm doing my life wrong because it doesn't look like that. Oh, I failed because it doesn't look like this. Oh, I'm not as good as that person. I haven't made as much money as that person. I'm not as successful. That's all competition. And what that often contributes to is lack, not good enough, not worthy enough, not something enough. And I think our culture has been bred on that for a long, long time now. And there is something to coming back to this fact that we are all unique, we all belong here, we are all innately, inherently worthy. I don't care if culture, society, religion, whatever it is, tells us otherwise. We are all inherently worthy. And we all belong here because we were born here, period. But what would it be like to stop comparing, to stop putting on the filters so that we all have to look like Barbie dolls, and actually just be our unique, individual expression of life, of existence, of ourselves, whatever it is, that it's okay to be you. And that's something that should be celebrated, not measured. And it should never be measured by anything outside of ourselves. And it was a beautiful moment for me to just sit into this, like, no, I did it my way. And there is no right way or wrong way or one way. That's what's amazing. There's more than 7 billion expressions of what it is to be a human being on this planet. Can we embrace that? Can we not feel threatened by differences? And can we just come back home and actually just enjoy what we have to offer? Maybe we could all be a little bit more of service, instead of spending all of our time comparing, judging, having an opinion of, telling other people what they should do, who they should be. Instead, just coming back to, like, okay, who am I within this experience? What has meaning for me? What do I want to share? What do I want to express? What do I want to give? How do I want to be of service? How can I contribute? And it requires each and every one of us to go into ourselves and go, okay, who am I? Who am I? Not who should I be? Not who am I meant to be? Not how should I look? Fuck all that. Excuse me, but you know what I mean? This isn't Instagram. This is real life. And real life is beautiful and unique and alive and ever changing and ever evolving and beautifully, perfectly imperfect. So maybe this homogenization isn't so helpful. Maybe it's coming back to, wow, I admire that. And this is my life, or that challenges me, or that inspires me. How can I cultivate that into my life? Not by comparison, not by competition. Take inspiration. Take the challenge and see, okay, what is this trigger inside of myself? What are the questions that I need to ask myself? In what ways am I not being honest with myself? What are the things that I still want to experience, do, that person ignited in me? And then go be the expression of you. All right, enough philosophizing for the evening. Thanks for listening. Loving you all from afar.